Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Beatrice Cunjan, an addiction psychiatrist from the Baguio General Hospital and Medical Center. So I was tasked to discuss to you alcohol, tobacco, legal substances, and their harmful effects. So given the time, I will add caffeine to these legal substances. I would like to give a trigger warning for everybody because this lecture have content that might trigger anybody. So if at any time during the lecture you feel uncomfortable, please make sure to inform any of the facilitators or our guidance counselors. Below are numbers that you might contact if needing um, crisis intervention. So we'll proceed. First, alcohol. So alcohol or ethanol is the form of alcohol that is voluntarily consumed by us. It is fermented and it is found in beer, wines, and spirits. No? Alcohol has the ability to cross all biologic membranes from head to toe. The alcohol concentration in the body tissues rapidly reaches equilibrium with blood alcohol concentration. So at low doses, it can be a stimulant, but at moderate doses, it can result to drowsiness, euphoria, and at increasing levels, it can result to jerky movements, slurred speech, and with heavy use, it can result to unconsciousness, respiratory failure, coma, or death. So, what are the effects of alcohol on the brain? Um, this slide is a very busy slide, and uh, I know the terms are medical, but maybe what I would like to show you here is the complexity of the effects of the alcohol at the cellular level of our brains. That's why it results to intoxication, sedation, anxiety, what else? Withdrawal symptoms, for some tolerance, for some cravings. This is the standard drinks guide for alcohol. This shows that a certain amount of alcohol beverage um, would contain approximately 8 grams of ethanol. So, looking at the guide, 285 ml of mildly full strength beer would contain an approximately at least 8 grams of ethanol, the same as a 30 ml of spirits would contain 8 grams of ethanol. Um, we use this to at least approximate the amount of ethanol intake um, based on the type of alcohol and the amount of the alcoholic beverages taken. So when you say drink moderately, what does that mean? For moderate alcohol intake for men, that means there's intake of 2 drinks or 2 standard drinks, as mentioned a while ago, or less in a day. For women, 1 standard drink or less in a day. And at least there is one day of the week that this person has been alcohol free. So this is by the CDC or Center for Disease Control and Prevention. You shouldn't drink alcohol at all, even if in moderation if you are pregnant or might be pregnant, if you are 21 years old and below, if you have medical conditions, um, just like liver diseases, if you are taking medications that can interact with alcohol, if you could not control the amount of your drink, then don't drink at all, or if you're recovering from alcohol use disorder. Um, this is a definition of moderate drinking, as mentioned a while ago. If you take like 4 to 5 drinks in 2 hours, then that is alcohol binging. And if there's an intake of 3 to 4 drinks per day or 7 to 14 drinks per week, depending on gender, then that might be heavy drinking, and most probably it will result to um, problems associated with drinking. We are going to nicotine and tobacco use disorder. For nicotine, it is a stimulant and it produces arousal. It causes increased heart rate and increases the blood pressure. At higher doses, it can produce bradycardia or slow cardiac rate of less than 60 per minute, hypotension or low blood pressure, and a depressed mental state. So this is the Philippine Global Youth Tobacco Survey done in 2019. So it is noted that tobacco use is relatively common in the Filipino youth. So it says here that there's 1 out of 4 students are current smokers, and 1 out of 4 students have tried e-cigarettes. And more than half of the current smokers from 13 to 15 years old, very young, would stop smoking in the future because they want to improve their health, because there's most probably health-related consequences with tobacco use. So what are the harmful effects of cigarette smoking? The immediate effects are repeated cough and colds, asthma attacks, bad breath, infections of the teeth and gums, and stained teeth and gums. Can be easy fatigability and nicotine addiction. This illustration is common. I think you have seen this in some of the posters. So the long-term effects of cigarette smoking are heart disease and hypertension, cancer of the lungs, throat or mouth, peptic ulcer diseases, early wrinkles. Smoking during pregnancy may lead to premature babies, small or even unhealthy or dead babies. There's also some warnings about e-cigarette dangers and vaping. For some, they use e-cigarettes to control or stop smoking, but actually it has more unhealthy consequences. So what are nicotine withdrawal symptoms? These can be sleep disturbances, craving, increased appetite, decreased heart rate, restlessness, anxiety. So we'll be going to the next topic, that would be caffeine. Coffee is the most widely used mood-altering drug in the world. So sino dyan ang mahilig magkape? So it is tied to social customs and daily rituals, no? It is a mild CNS stimulant. When we say CNS, it's the central nervous system that would involve our brains. So coffee displays behavioral features that resembles those of associated with drug dependence. These are sources of caffeine. So here is a list. It shows here coffee brewed, meron pang brand, Starbucks, espresso, instant, and decaf. Tea, soft drinks. The list is small, but you can access this in the internet. So, other sources of caffeine are chocolate, caffeinated water, energy drinks. Ayan, may Red Bull. What else? Weight loss products in sports nutrition. So, there you go. For decaf, there's 3 milligrams in a cup. Hot chocolate, 9 milligrams. Coca-Cola can, 40 milligrams. 1 shot of espresso, 27 milligrams. Green tea, 20. Red Bull, 80 milligrams. Instant coffee, 82 milligrams. Brewed coffee, 95 milligrams. So, how does coffee work? It increases spontaneous neuronal firing. Okay, it increases the turnover or levels of neurotransmitters. It increases motor activity and it inhibits sleep. Caffeine is rapidly and completely absorbed, reaching peak blood concentration in 30 to 45 minutes. No? So it's highly lipid soluble and readily passes the blood-brain barrier. That's why nakakagising talaga siya. It can be distributed throughout the body tissues and fluids, including the breast milk and semen. The half-life is typically 4 to 6 hours, but the rate of metabolism is from 2 to 12 hours in healthy adults. For those who have difficulty sleeping, um, you can drink coffee, but at least 6 hours from your sleep. So if you sleep at 9, the last coffee intake would be 6 p.m. 3 p.m. or better yet 12 noon para hindi maka-affect yung coffee sa pagtulog mo. Yan. Caffeine increases wakefulness and inhibits sleep onset. So, it interferes with sleep onset, total time slept, and sleep quality and sleep stages. So, caffeine's effect on sleep depends on certain factors such as dose, time between ingestion, and attempted sleep, as well as individual differences in sensitivity and tolerance. Kung hindi talaga mapigilan magkape kayo more than 6 hours before bedtime. Anxiety. Caffeine exacerbates anxiety symptoms in individuals with premorbid anxiety disorders. So for those who have anxiety disorders, better yet, not take caffeine. Okay. So there's coexistence between caffeine and other drugs of abuse. Like for alcohol, 60% of caffeine dependents have history of alcohol abuse, no? For benzodiazepines, for some they use benzodiazepines pangpatulog. Benzodiazepines would be alprazolam or clonazepam. So caffeine use should be evaluated with treating anxiety or insomnia for those with taking benzodiazepines. And cigarette smokers consume more caffeine than non-smokers. Caffeine and health. So there's coffee-associated hypertension. Nag-i-increase siya ng 5 to 15 millimeters mercury of our systole and 5 to 10 millimeters mercury of our diastole sa blood pressure. Yan. So, pwedeng mag-cause ng pagkakaiba ng heart rates. Ano pa ba? It can exacerbate GERD. Uh, it can result to urinary urgency and increase calcium excretion for those who have problems with calcium. And there's impairment in glucose metabolism and insulin sensitivity in individuals with type 2 diabetes and pregnant women with gestational diabetes. So, what are the symptoms of caffeine intoxication? First, there has to be recent consumption of coffee, at least more than 250 milligrams. That would be more than 2 to 3 cups of brewed coffee. And there would be 5 more of the following: restlessness, nervousness, excitement, tachycardia, flushed face, diuresis, gastrointestinal disturbance, muscle twitching, rambling thought, periods of inexhaustibility, and psychomotor agitation. Meron rin tayong physical dependence on caffeine. So, once nag-stop siya ng, ng taking the caffeine, in 12 to 24 hours, usually nagkakaroon sila ng headache, tiredness, drowsiness, irritability, depressed mood, difficulty concentrating, and the like. So severity of the symptoms can range from mild to incapacitating. And then when they take coffee or caffeine again, these symptoms disappear. So most probably those are because of physical dependence to caffeine, and these are the withdrawal symptoms. Um, if you stop, if you want to stop coffee intake or caffeine intake, these can be experienced for at least the next uh, 3 weeks, and then it goes away. So, mas madali lang naman mag-stop ng caffeine dependence. This is an illustration of the brain to show you which the parts of the brain that are actually affected um, when affected in addiction related disorders. So the blue areas would be the dopamine pathways, and the red ones would be the serotonin pathways. In addictions, the blue pathways or the dopamine pathways is dysregulated, or it is hijacked, and eventually it affects the serotonin pathways, and that explains the symptoms that we have in addiction related disorders. It can be tricky because at first the person can be functional, but eventually, because of the underlying mechanism of addiction, eventually these substance use can eventually result to development of dependence, no? And so don't take chances with your health. I leave you with this poster from 1948, designed by Victor Wells. Have a good day.